Do this once, just once, and watch what happens to the person who has been pulling your strings. Not what you imagine will happen. Not what you hope will happen. What actually happens every time. When you apply the one thing that every manipulation tactic in existence is completely powerless against. Most people think the answer to manipulation is a better argument, a sharper comeback, a more confident response, a confrontation that finally makes them see they are wrong. Every one of those responses, the argument, the comeback, the confrontation, is still a reaction. And a reaction is exactly what a manipulator needs to survive. It tells them their tactics are working. It gives them energy. It keeps you inside their game. The Stoics called the real answer something that sounds almost too simple to be powerful. They called it stillness, but stillness, the way the Stoics practiced it, is not passivity. It is not weakness. It is not silence born of fear. It is the most precise psychological weapon ever developed, and once you use it correctly, even once, you will never need anything else. Point 1. Destroy the obvious explanation. Here is what almost no one understands about how manipulation actually works at its mechanical level. Manipulation is not about the manipulator having power over you. It is about you handing power to them repeatedly, automatically, often without realizing you're doing it at all, and the vehicle for that handover is almost always your reaction. Think about the last time someone manipulated you. What did you do? You probably explained yourself, or you went quiet out of frustration, or you pushed back, or you tried to make them understand, or you felt guilty and adjusted your behavior. Every single one of those responses, even the angry ones, even the distant ones, confirmed to them that their tactic worked, that they could move you, that you were still reachable. Epictetus, who spent years enslaved before becoming one of the most respected philosophers in Rome, put it with his characteristic precision. The person who can disturb your peace has only the power you gave them. Not metaphorically, mechanically. If your peace is undisturbed, there is nothing to aim at. And here is the part most people skip past. A manipulator does not need you to agree with them. They do not need you to like them. They do not even need you to be kind to them. They need you to be affected. Affected is the only currency that keeps their tactics funded. The moment you stop being affected, genuinely, not as a performance, their entire operation runs out of fuel. Point 2. The hidden mechanism. To understand why stillness works the way it does, you have to understand what a manipulator is actually running on internally. Every manipulation tactic, guilt, flattery, intermittent warmth, strategic silence, provocation, gaslighting, is designed to produce one specific output from you, an emotional response that confirms you are still inside their frame, still tracking their emotional state, still organized around managing them. When your response is stillness, not the performed kind, not the clenched jaw, white-knuckle kind, but genuine internal stillness, something happens in the manipulator that they are completely unprepared for. Their tactic returns to them with nothing attached to it. No anger, no guilt, no relief, no reaction at all. And a tactic that produces no output is not just ineffective. It is psychologically destabilizing to the person who deployed it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals, not for public consumption, but for his own daily psychological discipline, that the obstacle to action is the action itself. When there is no obstacle, there is no friction. When there is no friction, there is no traction. A manipulator without your reaction is a wheel spinning on ice. This is what the Stoics understood, that most modern psychology only partially grasps. The most devastating response to someone trying to control you is not resistance. Resistance is still engagement. It is radical, unperformed, unhurried calm. Not because you feel nothing. The Stoics never taught emotional suppression, but because you have built something internal that their tactics cannot reach. a foundation that does not shift when external pressure is applied. Point 3. The power and status angle. Study any person in history who operated at the highest levels of power, under sustained psychological pressure, and you will find one pattern that never varies. They did not react. They responded, occasionally, deliberately, on their own terms. Or they said nothing at all. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire for nearly 2 decades. He was surrounded by people who wanted to destabilize him. Political rivals, corrupt senators, flatterers, critics. He wrote his private journals not as a record of victories, but as a daily practice of stillness, reminding himself over and over that the opinions of others are not events that happen to you. They are weather, and you choose whether to go outside without a coat. Seneca observed something about power that most people only understand backwards. It is not that I am brave enough to face them. It is that I have made myself someone who is not moved by what they offer or what they threaten. That is a description of stillness as a built condition, not a response in the moment, but a state of being that the moment cannot override. Watch how this works in practice when someone with genuine psychological authority is provoked, insulted, challenged, manipulated. They do not flinch, not because they suppressed the flinch, because the provocation landed somewhere that no longer registers as a threat. And that absence of registration is the most powerful signal you can send. It says, "You are not large enough to move me." And that signal, received clearly, breaks something in the person who was counting on your movement. The manipulator who cannot provoke a reaction faces their deepest fear: irrelevance. And irrelevance to someone who survives on controlling others is the one thing they have no tactic for. Point 4. How to actually do it. Here's the thing nobody tells you about stillness. It is not a decision you make in the moment. A decision made in the moment of provocation is already too late, because the provocation has already entered your system and your nervous system is already responding. True stillness is something you build before the moment arrives. The Stoics had a specific practice for this. They called it negative visualization, or more precisely, the premeditation of adversity. Before you face the manipulator, before the conversation happens, before the message arrives, or the guilt trip lands, you have already rehearsed your internal state. You have already decided what kind of person you are going to be in that moment. In practical terms, it works like this. When you feel the pull of a manipulation tactic, the guilt rising, the defensiveness spiking, the urge to explain or fight or disappear, you pause. Not visibly, internally. You locate the feeling without following it. You name what is happening. This is a tactic. This is designed to move me. And then you ask yourself the one question that resets everything. Is what they just said or did actually true? Did it change anything real about who I am? In almost every case, the answer is no. The guilt trip did not actually make you guilty of anything. The criticism did not actually diminish your competence. The silent treatment did not actually reduce your worth. Those things only have power when you act as though they do. Epictetus called this the discipline of assent, your absolute right, which no one can take from you, to choose which impressions you agree with. The manipulator sends an impression. You are wrong. You are guilty. You are dependent on me. The Stoic practice is to receive the impression, examine it, and refuse to assent to it if it is false, not loudly, not as a performance, internally, quietly, completely. That refusal, practiced consistently, built into your default state, is the Stoic art of stillness. And when you do it once, genuinely, and watch the tactic collapse in real time, you will understand immediately why the Stoics spent so much time on this single practice above almost everything else. Point 5. What happens after? When you apply stillness correctly, not once as an experiment, but as a consistent way of being, the dynamic shifts in ways that most people are not prepared for. Some manipulators escalate. They push harder. They try new angles. They deploy tactics they haven't used before. This is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It is the clearest possible confirmation that you are doing something right. Escalation is panic. It means the standard toolkit failed and they are searching for a new threshold. Your job in that moment is simply to stay still. Others withdraw entirely. They go quiet. They disappear. They find someone else whose reactions they can still access. This can feel like loss, and the Stoics were honest that it often is. You may genuinely care about this person. The loss may be real, but Seneca wrote that the cost of keeping the wrong people close is always higher than the cost of losing them, because the wrong people do not just take your time and energy. They slowly take your sense of what is real. And a third thing happens, the one nobody expects. A small number of people, confronted with your genuine stillness, actually pause, not because stillness shames them, but because it is so different from what they are used to encountering that it creates a moment of genuine confusion. And in that confusion, for the first time, they have to look at themselves rather than at your reaction. Whether they use that moment productively is not your responsibility, but the moment itself is caused entirely by your stillness. The Stoic art of stillness is not a trick. It is not a technique you deploy strategically and then set aside. It is a practice, something you build over time in small moments by choosing again and again not to hand your peace to someone who has not earned it and will not protect it. Marcus Aurelius wrote this, not to anyone else, only to himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wrote it repeatedly, not because he forgot it, but because he understood that the mind needs reminding, that stillness is not a permanent acquisition. It is a daily practice. Every manipulation tactic ever devised relies on the same single vulnerability, that you can be moved without your consent. Stillness closes that vulnerability, not by making you hard, not by making you cold, but by making you genuinely, completely, internally your own. Do this once. Hold still when you are expected to react. Breathe when you are expected to explain. Return to your own center when someone is trying to pull you out of it. And watch, not with satisfaction, not with triumph. Just watch, with the calm clarity of someone who no longer needs the outcome, as their power over you simply evaporates. Subscribe for weekly videos on Stoic philosophy, dark psychology, and the psychology of power. The next video is on screen now, and if this one gave you something, that one goes deeper.